Ada, I can't tell if Aita am overreacting about something my mother did. I would like to start by mentioning a few things to keep in mind. I am 14 years old. Yes, I understand that I shouldn't be on Reddit. I am aware of internet safety and created this account specifically for this reason. I assure you that I am being cautious. Additionally, I listen to enough Reddit stories that I think I will be all right, and I am assigned female at birth. I use he/him pronouns, but I am not out yet, so it doesn't really matter. I want to express that I probably will not take any action regarding this issue, as I love my mother and my family dearly. However, I felt that what she did was quite hurtful. For some context, I want to clarify that we do not have the healthiest family environment. My mother is undergoing therapy for some past issues, and my biological parents are separated for understandable reasons. I should add that I have never been particularly sensitive about this topic, since the events occurred before I was old enough to understand what was happening, and they never married. Consequently, I move around to different homes frequently. This keeps me quite busy, and my family and I have been through a lot over the years. Recently, I felt really hurt by something my mother did and was uncertain whether it was justified. I might be being somewhat selfish in wanting validation for my anger, but I truly cannot determine if I'm in the wrong. To clarify, I am a freshman at an American public high school and began my second semester nearly 2 months ago, so interpret that as you will. School has been challenging lately. I have had enough of graphing inequality formulas. I do not want your slope, but I have been pushing myself to maintain at least a 90 in all my classes, which I am very proud of. However, in doing so, my mental well-being has suffered significantly. I hardly have time to engage in activities I enjoy, such as drawing and sewing, and when I do, I am so fatigued that all I want to do is sleep. As someone with a history of self-harm, this situation is not ideal. I am proud to say that I have been clean for just over 3 months, which is my new personal best. I have managed to balance school and maintain my sobriety for an extended period. My mother and I have not discussed it much, aside from one instance a few years ago when the school brought it to her attention. At that time, it was not a significant issue, just a scratch here or there, but nothing serious. A year or two later, it worsened, and to be honest, I do not believe she even noticed. I've been improving recently, and once again, I am nearly 4 months clean, so that is a victory for me. On top of everything, my body has been aching so much lately. I feel like an elderly man who just went through back surgery. My back and shoulders ache terribly. I try not to mention it excessively because my family simply responds with advice like, drink some water or you should stretch more. But good grief, some days it hurts so badly. Thus, for nearly 2 full months, I have been carrying the weight of my mental health, physical health, and academic performance, which is overwhelming. Recently, my discomfort has been more pronounced than usual. One particular morning, I got up to take a shower and felt so weak that I could hardly open the shampoo bottle. Walking hurt, and my hips felt like they were about to give out any second, leaving me a heap of disarray on the ground. It was painful. I managed to get mostly ready for school dressed, showered, packed, and with a clean face, but when I emerged into the kitchen to grab a Tylenol, I just couldn't make myself go. I told my mom that I didn't think I could go to school because it hurt to walk and my lower back felt like it was about to break. She agreed and said I could stay home, and I felt an immense relief, thanking any deity that might be listening for that mercy, and I laid down on the couch. I have 2 younger siblings, a 5-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl. The boy attends kindergarten and leaves for school at 8 a.m., while the girl goes to daycare at 10 a.m. I typically leave for school around 7 o'clock 7:15, since classes begin at 7:27:30. I greeted the children as they woke up, lying on the couch like a frail old man. They came over to kiss me good morning and asked if I was okay because they are lovely little angels, and I adore them. Then my mother asked me to prepare breakfast for them, pancakes and bacon. Normally, I would not mind at all as I often prepare breakfast, but standing over a stove for at least half an hour while in pain was a different story. I reluctantly agreed because what else could I do in that situation? I began making the food. I struggled to lift the milk for the batter. I dragged a chair over to the stove, but I pushed through and prepared it, wishing the kids good morning and serving them breakfast before collapsing back onto the couch. Oh, my poor back. My mother's boyfriend drove my son's sibling to school, and I sought out my mother to say hello while my daughter was eating breakfast. She was in her bathroom doing her hair, looking lovely and sharing how nice it was to have time to enjoy this before work. I felt guilty because I know she usually doesn't get the time to make herself feel attractive, even though she is already beautiful. Doing makeup and hair is still a pleasant ritual. Therefore, I chose not to mention my back and returned to the couch. After a few minutes, maybe longer, I might have dozed off. She called for me, asking me to dress my daughter for daycare. My back hurt, but I managed to suppress the discomfort and said okay. I got up and gathered the girl. I wiped her face, brushed her hair, dressed her in some daytime clothing, put on her socks and shoes, and helped her with her jacket. She looked adorable, but oh, my back. After my mother's boyfriend returned from dropping off the boy, he greeted us all. We formed a mini gathering in the living room, but then he returned to his desk, and my mother continued getting ready as I suffered on the couch. Once she was finished, she informed me that there were some chores she wanted me to complete while she was away. I thought, oh, but agreed. I helped her and my daughter get out the door. She would drop her off at daycare and then head to work. I then checked the chore list she had left for me. It included wiping down the bathroom counters, sweeping the bathroom floor, doing the dishes, cleaning the crock pot, collecting all the trash from around the house, and taking out all the trash and recycling. Oh, my aching back. Honestly, I cried. I was in so much pain and just didn't want to deal with it at that moment. So I changed into comfortable clothes, laid down, and cried myself into a nap. I slept for about an hour before waking up again. My back hurt even more, and the balls of my feet were sore when I stood. Ouch. Regardless, I grabbed a trash bag and collected all the trash from around the house, replaced the bags, stacked them up alongside the recycling by the door, and swept the floor. My back ached. My mother's boyfriend, who works from home, quietly took out the trash I had assembled. Thank you, man. However, he didn't assist with anything else. I did put away the clean dishes, but standing any longer was about to kill me. So, I took my backpack and computer to sit down and complete my schoolwork for the day. A few hours later, I was still doing schoolwork, and my daughter had returned home an hour before that and was watching a show beside me on the couch when my mother arrived home. The first thing she said was, "I thought I asked you to do the dishes," with no greeting, no hello, or "how are you feeling?" Just the dishes. Ouch, my feelings. I apologized and explained that I was busy with schoolwork because I didn't want to fall behind. However, she seemed to have had a bad day, so I let it go and finished my assignments. My son came home, my mother took a shower, and then I gave my daughter a bath before finishing the dishes myself. My back was still aching. By around 7 p.m., we had dinner. I didn't go to bed until around midnight because my back was so painful, but I planned to try to attend school the next day since math was tough to manage from home, and I didn't want to fall behind. Unfortunately, I woke up at 11 a.m., so that thwarted my plans. In a way, it was somewhat fortunate, though, because I got my period that day, and my back continued to ache, so I just ignored it. My grandmother was supposed to pick me up that day, and I forgot to inform her. Unfortunately, she was already waiting for me by the time I texted to let her know I would be staying home, and I apologized profusely. I received a somewhat irritable text in return, but I handled it pretty well, I think. That day was one of my mother's long ones, so she returned home at 7:30 p.m. The moment she walked in, she made a cold remark about how there were other people in the house who could have informed my grandmother that I wouldn't be at school that day. I thought, oh no, Nana likely made a snarky comment about it to her, so she will be upset the rest of the evening. And she was, so I avoided her except to apologize and say good night and express my love for her. That evening was exceptionally difficult. I was awake until 3:27 a.m. because my back was aching more intensely than it had over the past 2 days, and I spent about an hour and a half crying due to the pain. I waddled into the kitchen to grab an ibuprofen and spotted my mother, who was preparing a bottle for my daughter to send her back to sleep. I told her I had been awake the entire time and was just going to take some medicine and lay on the living room floor as that might help. It did, and once the medication kicked in, I migrated to the couch, finally dozing off around 4:50 a.m. The next morning, I was awakened at 6:54 a.m. by my mother, who lectured me about how I was taking advantage of her driving me to school and that I shouldn't stay home for 3 consecutive days. She said I had 6 minutes to get ready, or I would be taking the bus for the remainder of the year. I realize that may not sound overly harsh, but I have severe sound sensitivity issues, and the bus for my school is hell for me. Groggily, I got up and hurried to my room, threw on some clothes and packed my things, trying not to cry from being reprimanded and in pain. I returned to the kitchen. We drove to school, and she spoke as if everything were fine while I played along. I endured the school day, feeling achy in my shoulders and back, having barely 2 hours of sleep, and dealing with one panic attack that prompted the question, "Are you okay?" I survived the day, returning home feeling tense around my mother and generally unwell. Regardless, I made it through, and that day was Friday. I cannot determine if I am overreacting and if my feelings are valid regarding this situation. I cannot change the circumstances, but I still feel quite hurt. I know she was tired and busy with work. Am I the one at fault in this situation?